Two. Hello, cadets, and welcome to Leadership Day Fall 2020, the COVID version. We're here virtually with you today with Kevin Johnson, who's got quite a career he's going to tell you all about from Deloitte, and our co-host, Ashley Santos from the Citadel's Foundation, next door to us here at the Krause Center. So without further ado, Kevin, I would just love to have you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your career from the time you left college, what you were thinking, what you did to get you to where you are today and to introduce you to those cadets. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thanks so much. And thank you for inviting me. Ashley, thank you as well. Really, I'm excited to be here and talking to everybody. Actually, first thing I'll say, when I say everybody, I was very careful there. First thing, let me mention this. It's going to become very obvious, although I'm sitting probably 10 miles from campus right now in Mount Pleasant. I'm not originally from here, okay? So I want to apologize in advance because this esteemed group, at some point, I'm likely to refer to you guys as yous guys, okay? And what I mean by that is y'all, so just, you know, getting into it. So anyway, again, thanks, it's great to be here. I mentioned I actually grew up in Brooklyn, New York, so I'm a New York City guy. Started my career out of college years ago. I knew I wanted to be, an accountant, I'm a CPA, but also I wanted to be in tax. So I went right into tax. And I'll shorten my biography, but what I did is it's been with Deloitte. I've been with Deloitte a long time, and I'll talk about Deloitte in a moment. Been with Deloitte a long time, but about 20 some odd years ago, I left Deloitte because I had this burning desire my whole career to have my own business. So I left Deloitte to set up my own practice, my own international tax practice, CPA practice. And I did that, and along the way, I stayed very close to my Deloitte friends and colleagues, because they were very instrumental in helping me build that practice. So a long story short, built the practice up, and about 5 or 6 years ago, I had acquired some partners along the way, some British partners. I decided, look, we don't have a succession plan, guys. So a long story short, sold my interest back. Actually, Deloitte wanted to buy the firm. So my partners didn't want to sell. I sold my interest back, rejoined Deloitte about 5 years ago. And it's just been great. I mean, people that I've known from 20 years ago, somebody like Will Posey, who actually, I know you know Will very well. Ted, you know him as well. I've known Will all over the years, so it was great to reconnect with folks like that. And so, what I've done, and rejoining Deloitte, and again, Deloitte is one of the largest consulting firms in the world. Right? And what we do, our major service lines are audit, tax, which I'm in, management consulting, financial advisory, risk advisory, and legal. Interesting enough, legal outside the U.S., Deloitte is one of the biggest law firms in the world. So it's an amazing organization. I was thrilled to come back. And the group I'm in tax, we're the Global Employer Services. And what we do in GES is our client base are global companies. We look after their globally mobile employees from the tax side. So to kind of put it in context, say you have an American executive who goes over the United Kingdom for 3 years, that person will shift into the UK tax system, but still, as a citizen, be in the US system. So we work with the company and the individual around all the tax issues that come up with that. That's what I do most of the time. Actually, most of my time is spent dealing with senior executives and also selling work. So, and we'll get into some of the challenges we face now selling work, but it's been an interesting ride the last 6 months selling work.
Well, before we jump into the organizational leadership and some of those questions, when you said you had a burning desire to start your own practice, what had you been doing at Deloitte before? What kind of clientele were you working with? What kind of problems were you solving? And then when you started your own firm, what kind of clients were you working with? What kind of problems were you solving there? And why was Deloitte interested in gobbling you up and purchasing you?
Okay, great question. So before I left, the clients I was working on, large multinational clients, but also dealing with a lot of the senior executives and doing tax work, CPA work, advising them on all their matters. But I think also working for a big organization, I mean there are some frustrations, right? There's some things. I mean there's certain protocols these days, or even more protocols and things you have to do. And I think I really wanted to test myself as well. I was doing really well at Deloitte, loved the firm, obviously, came back, but I really wanted to test myself and say, okay, I left, and a lot of my colleagues, I know that the partner who's now retired, who I told them I was leaving to do this, 20 some odd years ago, he thought I was, first he thought I was kidding, and then he thought I was crazy. I mean, and my wife, God bless her, she thought I was crazy. Our daughters were really little, so I'm leaving with no clients, no salary, and giving it. But I really wanted to test myself, and I did that. And when I started the practice, it was a lot of referrals from Deloitte, maybe some clients that weren't, they weren't appropriate for Deloitte, some smaller companies, but then started leveraging some of the relationships I had and started working with some really large companies, really large banks. Foreign banks was kind of a niche for me. And I think part of it for Deloitte is coming back. One is to bring some talent back, because I brought 3 or 4 employees with me. So getting that talent, but also bringing some of these clients. So there was one in particular, one large bank where I had a big piece. It worked out perfectly. I had a big piece of work for this one large bank, but they were putting out to bid globally the rest of the tax work. And so I joined just when that bid came out, and we ended up winning the work. So it was really, that was part of it for Deloitte. They knew that client was probably going to come along. So.
Well, that's a testament to you, Kevin, that they still wanted you back, and when you take some work and employees with you. So that's a testament to you and the level of expertise and kind of character that you had.
Well, thanks, Ashley. Appreciate that.
All right, Ashley, want to ask a little about how the team manages leadership?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, obviously our mission here at the Citadel is to produce principled leaders in all walks of life. So it would be great, Kevin, if you could share with us today, how do you think about integrating core values and leadership ideas at Deloitte, and maybe even to go more specific in your sector?
Okay, great. I think in terms of leadership, and absolutely, you say core values. In Deloitte, our term is shared values. It's the same thing, right? And our top 3 core or shared values are integrity, taking care of each other, and fostering inclusion. So I think, and interestingly enough, in all our operations, you see these core values come through in all these operations. So, with integrity, I mean, integrity actually starts at the very beginning. To take on a client, there's a client acceptance procedure you have to go through. We do thorough background checks on clients to make sure that, it's our reputation out there with our clients. So that's critical with the integrity. Also, you think about our audit division. We audit some of the largest companies in the world, right? So, and we attest to these financial statements. And so there's a public trust there that, you think about a public company, there are investors that rely on those financial statements in part before making investments. You have employees, you have prospective employees who will look at a financial statement to see, okay, is this company viable? Do I want to work for this company? So that's critical as well. And then you have banks that make loans, large loans to these companies, and they rely on our financial statements. So integrity is critical. I think the second core value I mentioned is taking care of each other. I think today that's more important than ever. And I think what we've done with this COVID-19 pandemic we're in, we're really concerned about our employees. And our employees, not only their physical health, but quite frankly, their mental health is a real big issue, and we really worry about that. And we've set up a lot of wellness programs. We've done a lot of different programs we've set up to help. I know personally with my team, getting to my team, I check in with my team members every day. And sometimes it's just a quick call just to say, how are you? Sometimes I'll just send an IM to somebody and how are you doing? This one woman in Atlanta I work closely with, I said, how you doing? One day she came back, she just said, I'm drowning. So boom, you get on the phone and you kind of sort through what's going on. So I think that's important as well. And then again, I'll mention the third core value is fostering inclusion, right? Fostering inclusive environment. I think Deloitte, we've done a good job. I'll say a good job, right? So for instance, we were the first Big Four firm to actually elect a female CEO, which was really, we're all very proud of it. And Kathy was amazing. After she served her term, she's now actually the commissioner of the WNBA. So I think she's having probably a lot more fun doing that than being CEO of Deloitte for sure. We're really proud of that. But quite frankly, in today's environment, I mean, we've realized we've got a lot more work to do. So, we've kind of taken this inclusion model and expanded it into a diversity, equity, and inclusion model. So we're laser focused on inclusion in our hiring, in our leadership appointments, and just the general awareness of the inequities that are out there in the world. So there's not a meeting or a call we have that's not top priority, inclusion.
That's
So
just terrific. I mean, that's amazing because those are some of the ways we are integrating our core values. We were having discussions at Citadel. It's fantastic to hear that the things that they are learning here are reinforced in a corporate environment. And it's the first time I've heard diversity, equity, and inclusion spoken about in a corporate setting. I've heard it in the academic setting, but never in the corporate setting. So, you know, we, like you said, we're in a very strange time. We are adjusting in so many ways. You know, not just the pandemic. We're pumping a lot of money into the economy. All kinds of globalization and connectivity is rapidly shifting. And you all are at the forefront of creating trust in that rapidly changing environment. I thought that was a very interesting point you made, that you guys are essentially verifiers, almost like not only do you help plan, but you referee and you audit, and that allows investors and banks and potential employees to make good decisions. How do you see Deloitte shifting and adapting to some of these global changes in economic changes, cultural changes, technological changes?
That's, again, another great question. I think it's interesting. You talk about some of the challenges Deloitte and all firms and all institutions are facing now with COVID. I think one of the things that for me was really impressive what Deloitte did when the pandemic hit and when travel got shut down. I'd say it's mid-March. Deloitte, with tens of thousands of employees throughout the US, we transformed into a virtual environment over a weekend. It was incredible how everybody on a Friday, you know, they shut down travel Friday, you know, don't come to the office, work from home Monday. By Monday, everybody was up and running for the most part. So that was really impressive. But I think some of the challenges now with that, now you think about the environment we're all in right now. One of the things that's critical for Deloitte is, you know, going back to our core values, is also having that sense of community, right? So the challenge is, this is a rhetorical question. How do you build and maintain a sense of community on a virtual basis? Exactly, on a virtual basis. And so we've been working really hard doing that. I think what's interesting, what we really find challenging is for the younger people, particularly people come right out of college. How do you know, we immerse them. And when people join Deloitte, one of the first things you do is you go to Deloitte University, right? Which is this amazing campus outside of Dallas, Texas. And it's one facility that has all the training facilities. It has, you know, it's a 3-star hotel, basically. It's an amazing place. That's been shut, and that's shut down. So how do we build that community? And so we've been working really hard on doing that. What's interesting enough for the cadets on the phone, I think you guys are at a bit of an advantage in terms of you're living it now, or you have been living it. So when you join organizations, we need help from you guys in terms of, yeah, and there I go, I said use guys. So we need help with that in terms of, you know, what are the best practices? How do you stay connected with people? Because you can't, you know, I'm famous if I see somebody struggling before, I'll grab he or she and say, well, let's go grab a beer and just talk it through and do that. Obviously, you can't do that right now. We do it. We have virtual happy hours. My teams, every Friday night, we have a virtual happy hour. And those are fun. I mean, they're fun, but it's just not the same. So I think that's a challenge. I think virtually, I mentioned selling before. Selling professional services is always, listen, it's not easy. It's always difficult. In this setting, where it's really challenging is, it's not so much selling additional work to current clients or people you know, it's the new relationships. And how do you build those new relationships and sell? And it's a Deloitte challenge, but it's many companies, all companies face that challenge. So we're doing things. I know in my sector, I cover the Southeast for GES. Some of the things I've been doing, we've been having with targets, with new relationships, as well as clients, just having small roundtables, get 6 or 8 companies together and get them talking. Ironically, I had 2 clients, both Charleston-based clients, 2 companies, 2 public companies. I won't mention names. There's not that many down here, you can guess, but invited them to this roundtable, and they didn't know each other until this round. And they're like, wait a minute, we're 5 minutes away from each other. So it was great. So that's how we're starting to build new relationships along the way. So I think that's a challenge. Other challenge is technology is interesting enough. Technology in my space, in GES, we have some really good technology, but quite frankly, there are some small firms outside Deloitte, some small boutique firms, like one in particular, they've come up with a great technology for international mobility, for managing mobile populations. I mean, they have state of the art. So what we've done is, we partner with them. So we go in and what they don't have, they're technology folks, what they don't have, for instance, is the tax knowledge. So they use our tax engine to do a lot of these calculations. So it's really, it's interesting how, as big as Deloitte as we are, you have some of these small disruptors, these small nimble companies that what we're doing is instead of trying to fight them, and sometimes we just try to buy them, right? But if you can't do that, what you think about doing is partnering with these companies, and it's been very successful. So the last challenge I'll mention is, and this is pre-COVID, in COVID, is winning the war on talent. You think about Deloitte, we don't have any inventory, right? Our greatest assets are our people. So, winning that and getting the best people. And what we're finding, even before COVID hit, what we're finding is, the targeting is starting a lot earlier now than it used to be. Okay, it's senior year, let's go, guys. It's starting with the freshman and sophomore and getting to know the students. So that's critical for the group here. Is as much networking as you can do in this environment. You should do that.
Well, that's a perfect segue, Ted. I know that our cadets here, they're most concerned with obviously surviving the day, surviving the next challenge. But what happens next? What happens when they graduate and they walk through these gates? Can you tell us what you look for in new hires? Or maybe conversely, can you share some horror stories or some turnoffs in the recruiting and hiring process?
Okay, Ashley, thank you. Actually, recruiting is one of my favorite areas, so thanks for that question. It really is. I enjoy it so much. It's fantastic. So, in terms of what we look for, right? You think about intelligence and hard work, right? Those are table stakes, and quite frankly, you can kind of glean some of that off a resume. Not always, not all of it, but some of it. But then when you get in that door and you get an interview, the characteristics we're looking for, things like empathy. Empathy is more important than ever. So is that person empathetic to that? Does that come across? Leadership potential, intellectual curiosity. And then the one thing that's critical for Deloitte, and this is really a big thing with Deloitte, is authenticity. Will this person bring their authentic self to work? Because that's what we want. And so I'll give you a couple examples. They sound like they weren't great, but they turned out to be great. The first one it was a couple years ago. I was still in the New York office, and so I'm recruiting at NYU. So I had this student come in, and he's Chinese national, really bright, and we met, and I appreciated that English wasn't his first language. So he struggled a little bit, not much, a little bit, but he also was very nervous. So started the interview, but the problem I was having with this kid is that every question I asked, very smart guy, right? All his answers were just scripted right off the Deloitte website. So I'm like, okay, I'm halfway through this interview. I'm like, okay, I got to crack this code, right? So what I did is I took my favorite question, which I leave to the end, and I brought it to the middle. And I said to him, okay, let me ask you this. I said, what do you do for fun? And it threw him because guess what? You're not going to get that answer on the website at Deloitte. So and so he paused and he thought about it. And this Chinese student, he goes, well, I write and I perform rap music. And I go, say again? He goes, I write and perform rap music. And then he opened up. And we had the greatest conversation, and he got a job offer because then his true self came out, or his interest, and just how he got to being involved in rap music. His whole story was just great. It was fantastic. So I think, that's one. I know it's, contrast that with last year up in Chapel Hill at UNC, meeting, the usual students. And then this one student comes in. He's an Army veteran. So what this gentleman did, at about 32 years old, he retired from the Army. He went back to school to get a master's in accounting. So now I'm sitting in front of him, maybe he's 34, 35, and actually just a great guy, very mature, very articulate, been around the world. And I'm like, this guy is amazing. Then I caught myself, okay, he is amazing. But at the same time, this 35-year-old guy, world traveler, is going to be reporting to some 23, 24-year-old tax senior. So I asked him this, and that was my only concern. Otherwise, I said to him, okay, let me ask you one question. I said, how are you going to feel about reporting to a teenager? And he just smiled, and he didn't hesitate. And he said, Kevin, I've got to tell you, he goes, before I retired from the service, a couple of years ago, because I had this new officer come in, freshly minted from West Point. He goes, so I didn't agree with every one of his orders, but I accepted him, I saluted, and I did everything because the chain of command is critical. And we had a great conversation there. Again, another great story, another job offer. And so it's things like that that come up all the time. And I got some disastrous ones, but most of them are good. But I really do enjoy it. But again, I think for me the message is bring your authentic self, and that's why I love that question about what do you do for fun, because the stories are just incredible. And you really find out about a person. They're just not reciting what they read on a website somewhere.
I think that's
and
great
that also
advice.
that's great. And that goes back to your core values, taking care of one another and fostering inclusion. I mean, that authenticity, I think that's key.
I think that's great advice for cadets, particularly because, like Ashley said, they're trying to survive the 24-hour cadet schedule. They call it the 24-hour cadet schedule. So, they can choose a path, a major, but once they've chosen that path, there's certain hurdles that they're trying to get through to get to the end. And so they have an idea sometimes of what a polished cadet is supposed to look like in an interview, the model Citadel cadet. And so the idea that you should also bring the part of you that is not just a Citadel cadet, but that authentic spark, that thing that really connects with people that they see and really enjoy getting to know is really refreshing to hear. So I think that's great advice for our cadets for sure.
And think about it from the recruiter's point of view. You want the meeting to be interesting,
right?
And to me, the most interesting thing is to find out about that person. And it's funny, even within Deloitte. So this is kind of a shift to. I know I work with a lot of our people that they're going for promotion, and this is interesting. This is part of the Deloitte culture, is where just about every single one, no matter if somebody's going for manager, senior manager, partner, every rehearsal we have, one of the things they suffer with is saying I or me, because it's always we, because that's it. We're collaborative. It's always we. So I had to the person, every time I have my first session with somebody who's going for promotion, and I say, okay, let's hear your story. And I stop. I go, okay, listen, you have a character flaw that you suffer from. I said, it's called modesty. And and the reason I bring this up, it's now when someone's up for promotion or even in an interview, the modesty you put that aside a little bit. I mean, there's ways to do it, but I think you really have to show your stuff in an interview. I think that's an important thing too.
Absolutely. So, thinking back over this great career at Deloitte and then breaking out and forming your own business and getting back to Deloitte, that's a pretty incredible path. And I'm glad you mentioned the veteran that went back to school afterwards, because a third of our cadets, they go into the service, and many of them don't make a career of it. They just do their 4 years or whatever their contract requirement is, and then they have to find a path when they get done. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Thinking back to the time when you were in school, did you know that you wanted to go to Deloitte? Did you have a vision? One thing I think our cadets are very hardworking, and they're very determined to make the goal. But I think the challenge is going from inside the box, being told what to do and how to do it, and what the levels of achievement are to the great free world, and a large corporation offers some of those opportunities to say, here are the wickets you can hit. But did you personally have that kind of vision, and how would you advise those students who think they want to be involved in finance, accounting, financial wealth management, taxation? How would you advise them to think about developing a vision for their life?
Okay. I think for me personally, for some reason, I just knew I wanted to be a CPA. I mean, numbers, that were my thing. The numbers were my thing. I like tax. And so I kind of knew what I wanted. Then it was just picking the firm. Then it was just about cultural fit and where I would fit in. And so that, for me, it was an easier path. But I think about my own children and the path they took. And, one of the things I know I've determined with my own kids, and also just working with a lot of young people at Deloitte, is, just when you see the opportunity, you just have to go for it. And I think one of the skills, because Ted, you mentioned Deloitte, the financial world we're in. So despite the focus on numbers, right? I'll talk about Deloitte in a minute. And this is with banks and other financial institutions, the numbers. What I find the most important skill are communication skills, both the spoken word, but also written skills. Because I can't tell you how many draft client emails that I get to review, and I think I'm reading a text message or a tweet. And it's a skill, and it's something that, so for instance, I know I know my youngest daughter she was an English major, and she's working in international finance at a big financial institution now. And it's just, she kind of got that way because there were opportunities along the way. But I think it's the more people, and back to your question, Ted, is the more people the cadets speak to, that's how you get the diverse information you need in terms of where you think you fit in. But I think the organization that you join is just as important as the function or the area, because even with Deloitte, when we interview people, there are certain people when you interview, like, okay, this person is going to be, let me be crass for a minute. This person is going to be an amazing tax nerd, right? They love tax, that's their thing, but maybe not so great at selling. But that's okay, because the next person may just be out there, great at selling, not so great at tax. So it's finding the right organization, and then within that organization, finding the right fit that complements your skills and what you like to do. But ultimately, you have to have passion. I mean, it's a cliche. It's, you have to have passion, but it's really true. It is true, because if you just punch in a ticket, that's a miserable career.
I totally agree. This isn't about me, but I briefly started as a management consultant. Very glad to be in the military. But I'll say, well, your point about writing is so critical. And one of the requirements of this class actually is to write an essay, a reflection essay. And one of the critical steps that we're requiring students to do is have that essay proofread, because the ability to communicate in the written word is something that I really hope every Citadel cadet, every college graduate from the Citadel leaves here with the ability to express themselves in the written word and understands the importance of being able to do that in different media, not just writing a paper for a professor, but communicating over email or through text or social media with the same core values they bring to the table when they're in an interpersonal interview with the same polish and expertise. The last question I have here is a question we ask every one of our interviewees, and I just think it brings a lot of opportunity for wisdom to the table, and that is, please imagine yourself. I know you said you knew you wanted to be a CPA, but now with a great storied career here in international tax accounting, helping all these folks, building your own business, selling it, and rejoining your original firm, having spanned this great career, if you were back in that seat at age 22, 23 or so, a senior in college, what do you wish you knew then that you didn't know then? What do you wish you had known that you can tell these cadets, and they can store that away to take with them throughout their career?
Okay. First of all, let me just correct myself. At 22, I really wanted to play right field for the New York Yankees. I had the desire, but I just lacked the talent. It was all I was lacking was the talent. But that was my real.
You had the passion.
I had the passion. Just no skill. No skill. I couldn't hit. I couldn't run. I couldn't throw. So other than that,
it's tough for baseball. Yeah.
It is. But that is a great question. Just to reflect on that, I think what I would have liked to have known then is, because I had a couple opportunities to live overseas, and I didn't realize how, and I didn't do that. I've traveled a lot, but I haven't lived overseas, and I had the opportunity, and I wish I had known that, you know what, just go for it. It'll be, because I have so many friends that did it, and it absolutely changed their lives. I mean, it just incredible experiences. And so it's that where I just thought, well, I needed to be the New York guy in the New York office and just do that. I wish I had a broader view of the world back then that I do now. And I think that's, again, for the cadets, I mean, if you get an opportunity, if it's, in a place that is outside your comfort zone, go for it. I mean, that would be my advice to my 22-year-old self.
I think that is excellent advice, Kevin, and it's such a pleasure to have you here speaking to our cadets. We're so grateful. Ashley, do you have anything you wanted to finalize here? Or?
Just echo the sentiments that we're just grateful for your expertise, and especially for our Citadel cadets. This is a non-Citadel grad that just loves this institution and trying to impart some knowledge. So we appreciate you, Kevin.
Oh, great. Thank you both very much. And thank you, cadets. It's great to be here with you all today. I said it, y'all. I said it. Okay, guys.
No, you guys. All right. Take care.